Hey, welcome to the TeacherGoals podcast. This is your host, Erica Terry. Excited about tonight. We have returning Malia Hollowell, who is the author of the brand new, I'm proud to say, number one new release on Amazon, The Science of Reading in Action. So she is here today to equip us with some brain friendly reading strategies that you can implement in your classroom. But as always, I like to know who we have rolling with us. So if you haven't already done so, go ahead in the chat and let us know where you're from, your role in education, and either your spring break plans or what you're doing this week if you're already on spring break. Hopefully, it's going better than mine. I decided to come to Cleveland and visit family. The weather was like 40, 50 the first day I got here, went all the way up almost to 80. Now it's back down in the 50s, and this crazy weather has me like sick. So, hopefully, you are doing better than I am for spring break. But with that being said, if this is your first time here, let me just tell you how it goes. First of all, I am Erica Terry, your host, and so I will be bringing Malia up to ask her some questions. And as I am, you all can put your questions in the chat. So we're going to be talking all things science of reading today. And as I ask her questions, go ahead and put your questions in the chat because at the very end, she will be answering your questions. And so we are super excited to have her. And we're going to be giving away a free copy of her book, The Science of Reading in Action. So you want to make sure that you engage, ask great questions, share any tips, and say hello so that we know that you are here. And so with that being said, I want to say hello to Gloria. Welcome. We have Adam here from Morocco. Welcome. We have an English teacher here from Egypt. Hello. Super excited that you all are here. Thank you, Erica, for the good vibes. I need them. I'm like sweaty and hot, y'all. So we are going to make it do what we do because we love to learn. And I'm super excited to be able to hang out with you guys on Thursday evenings. And so, with that being said, welcome everyone. I am going to bring Malia up right now. Hello.
Hi, Erica.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing great.
Well, I am super excited to have you back. I learned so much from you last time. I promised everyone, like when your book came out, we were going to bring you back, and it was released last week, I believe, and already number one on Amazon. So I'm just so excited to celebrate with you today. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And so for those that do not know you, give us a little background, kind of share your story about how you got started in education all the way to becoming this number one best-selling author.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm excited to spend the evening with you. My name is Malia Hollowell, and I started teaching back in 2003. And my very first class was a group of 18 second grade students. And I expected that all of my kiddos would come to my classroom reading fluently because, of course, they'd had kindergarten, they'd had first grade, and I just assumed that all of my second graders would be reading. But that was not the case. What I found that was that about half of my kids were still really struggling to crack the code and figure out this thing called reading. And I was not equipped. I had one reading class in my teacher prep program, which is pretty standard, especially back then. And my teaching manuals were really designed for a one-size-fits-all approach where I was supposed to put really good, interesting books in my kids' hands, and then they would magically figure out how to connect all of the dots and learn how to read. Unfortunately, that strategy just did not work for my students, especially my struggling readers. And so that experience set me off on this lifelong journey that I've now taken over the last, 20 years trying to figure out how brains actually learn to read so that I can make the process as easy as possible for kids. And especially for those struggling readers, it's really imperative, it's really important that we give them the tools that they need in order to be successful and help them connect the dots without having to do it all on their own. So that is what my book is all about. It's about empowering teachers, parents, any adult who is helping a child learn how to read. I want to make sure that you have the tools and strategies that you need to be successful.
And we are going to dive into those tools and strategies that teachers or parents, anyone who's teaching their child how to read, can use. But before we get into the specific strategies, we're talking about this thing called the science of reading tonight. And for someone that may be listening and they're like, what the heck is the science of reading? I thought science was different than reading. Can you kind of just break that down for us? What is the science of reading?
Yes, of course. Actually, the first time I heard the science of reading, I actually Googled science of reading book. I expected that there was going to be a book out there that would magically explain this thing.
Yes.
Well, now it is a book.
Now there is.
But before my book, there was not a book called The Science of Reading. The science of reading is really decades of research, case studies, brain scans that a huge variety of experts and professionals have collected over more than 7 decades. So if you can imagine all of the brain scans that would have been completed by neuroscientists that were studying how a brain is actually changing anatomically and changing the way that it operates when a child goes from not reading to reading. Imagine all of those brain scans piled right next to all of the journal articles that have been published in science journals. Imagine that piled next to all of the case studies that educational experts have collected over the years about what best teaching practices have been most effective for kids. If all of that work was put together in one warehouse, it would be filled floor to ceiling, row after row after row. And all of that information is the science of reading. So this is not another pendulum swing. We're not having another argument or debate about what is best practice for teachers. This is really looking at the research and using it as science. It's like biology or chemistry. You can't argue that water is not H2O, right? You can't argue that brains learn to read with specific strategies better than other strategies that have now been proven to be ineffective.
Oh, I love it. And I love that analogy to water. The science teacher in me just lit up, right? So we are going to break down this H2O into the science of reading. So tonight we're looking specifically, you talked about, the research proves which strategies work. Your book breaks it down. And so let's dive into those brain-friendly strategies. Like that phrase really caught my attention. So when you say brain-friendly strategies, like what exactly does that even mean?
Well, it means making the reading process as easy as possible for kids. We want kids' brains to be able to connect the dots as quickly and easily as they possibly can. So let me give you an example. When babies are born, they have the neurological pathways already in their brain that they need in order to be able to learn spoken language. So when a baby is born, it starts to, it cries first, and then with time and development, it starts to make little cooing sounds, and then it starts to make sounds that can be connected to a certain thing, like I want milk, right? Then it will start to add on more words. And this process happens very naturally. It's not that a parent or a caregiver is sitting in front of the child saying, tree, tree, tree 500 times that day. The child can pick it up by just paying attention to the world around them. And that natural ability to learn spoken language is it's a human superpower, which we then can take advantage of, because learning to read is not a natural superpower. The written language has only been around for, depending on what expert you're paying attention to, it's somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 years. So our brains have not had time to develop those brain pathways that we need in order to be able to connect the reading dots on our own. We can, as teachers, help students make those connections, though, by starting with our spoken language superpower. So if we can have kids pay attention to just one sound, let's say the k sound, we can have them say that sound and look in a little handheld mirror, and we can ask them questions about what that sound looks and feels like. So what are your teeth doing when you say k? What is your mouth doing? Is it open? Is it closed? Where's your tongue in your mouth? Is it at the front of your mouth? Is it at the back? Is it high or low in your mouth? We can even have them feel the sound by putting their fingers on their throat and saying it k, k. If their fingers vibrate, then it's called a voiced sound. And if it doesn't vibrate, then it's unvoiced. So in this case, k, k, you can feel your fingers are not vibrating, so it's an unvoiced sound. And we can feel the sound also by putting our fingers in front of our mouth and feeling for airflow. You can feel if you have a trickle of air or a puff of air. There are all kinds of different things that we can notice, and we can help our students notice about one single sound. And once they've really focused in on those specific characteristics of a sound, we can use that as a launching point to then say, awesome, think about all of the things we've learned about this k sound. Now let's connect that sound to this funny little written symbol that we use to actually spell it. So we can start with our human superpower for spoken language and then make the connection to this new unfamiliar thing called written language. And that's a great way to help our brains connect the dots more easily.
All righty. Am I the only person that's like want to be like, it makes I wanted to do it with you. I was like, oh, that is so cool because all of this is new to me. So I am learning tonight and I am just like amazed. Like, I really just want to try these techniques that you are teaching us tonight. And so as we dive into, now that we know, okay, what it means to be brain friendly, let's dive into some of these strategies. So I know you break down quite a few, but give us like your top 2 or 3 brain friendly strategies that a teacher or a parent could easily put into action.
Perfect. So I like to think about learning to read kind of like mixing up a batch of cake batter that we're going to put in the oven and bake for ourselves. So when you are mixing up this magical recipe called reading, there are going to be 2 different buckets of ingredients that we need. So one of them is word reading skills, and that bucket includes, it's called phoneme awareness. We want to include phonics, and we want to include orthographic mapping. I'll explain all of those things in just a second. Then we have another bucket of ingredients that are called language comprehension. And that means being able to understand the words that you're reading. So essentially what this recipe is telling us is we need to give kids the skills they need to actually sound out the words on a page. If we have a brilliant student who is able to have very in-depth conversations with us about solar energy and how solar panels can convert the sun's energy into energy that can be used in a home, even though they might be able to have those conversations verbally, if you hand them a book on solar energy and they don't have the skill set that they need in order to be able to sound out those words, they're not going to be able to read, right? They have to be able to sound out the words on the page, even if they understand what those words mean. So word reading skills are really important. And the way that we can build students' word reading skills is through practice. And we can do some really simple activities that help them build those skills. And one of them is focused on phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness means being able to hear sounds, individual sounds in words, and move those words around. So with beginning readers, you can actually do all of these activities without any fancy toys. You don't need to have big, elaborate setups. You can just do it by saying words and having kids play around with those words. So I'll give you an example. If you were practicing phonemic awareness, and again, our goal is to help kids be able to hear the individual sounds in words, we might say, what sounds do you hear in the word can? And we would help our children practice stretching those sounds apart. K, N. There are 3 sounds in the word can, and we want to help kids stretch those sounds apart so they can hear them individually. Then we could say, great, let's change k in can to t. What is the new word? Tan. So now we've taken a word and we've changed it just a little bit to make a new word. So you can see how we can practice all of this just simply through speaking and playing with words. And that's phonemic awareness. And that is going to be able to unlock one part of the reading formula that kids need to have in place in order to be able to sound out words they see on a page later.
All right. And so now that they've unlocked, I love that they've unlocked this first piece of the puzzle. Like, where do we take them next?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. I feel like that was a planted question. Of course, once they can hear those sounds, we need to help students connect the sounds to the written letters. It's great to hear them, but if we were just hearing sounds, we would just be talking to each other. So we have
Right.
to be able to connect those sounds to written letters. And the best way to do that is to focus in on the sound, just like we were earlier, that sound, and then have kids go through all of those questions we talked about how it looks and feels, and then connect it to the written letters that are used to spell it. The k sound, for example, can be spelled a number of different ways. What's interesting about English words is that 98% of them can be explained. The spelling patterns can be explained through certain rules, but we have to know what those rules are as adults in order to be able to teach them to kids. So, for example, the k sound in a word might be spelled with a C, or it might be spelled with a K, or it might be spelled with a CK. So you can see how English can get very complicated if we aren't able as adults to be able to explain the rules to kids. But the good news is everything you need is inside the book in order to be able to do that. So definitely get your hands on it if you're not familiar with those spelling rules that you might need to teach. And once you know it, you're going to be empowered to be able to help students learn it as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you've given us one more brain friendly strategy that a teacher or parent can put into action to help their child read.
Okay, well, we've talked a lot about this first bucket of
Mhm.
ingredients. We talked about those word reading skills, including we want to build students' phonological awareness. We want to help them connect those sounds to the written letter, which is phonics. And then we want to be able to start memorizing the pronunciation, spelling, and meaning of words in that last skill set that we called orthographic mapping. We're going to move over to this other bucket of ingredients called language comprehension. And just like we were talking about a little bit ago, we want to make sure that when students are reading, they're actually understanding and following along with the words that they're reading on a page. So, for example, if we hand a child a Harry Potter book and they're able to sound out all of the words that they see on those pages, that's awesome and exciting. But
Mhm.
if they are brand new to English, maybe they just landed in the United States, this is their very first day at school, and they're able to sound out the words, but they don't know any of the words on that page. Well, obviously that reading activity, they're not showing reading comprehension. They can sound out the words, but they don't understand the words. So language comprehension is really, really, really important for us to build. And the great news is that helping kids develop language comprehension can be as simple as reading diverse books. So read a large variety of books, different genres, different, nonfiction, fiction. Expose kids to a lot of different vocabulary that you might not typically use in your day-to-day life. And that's a great start toward building their language comprehension. You also can ask follow-up questions. After you read a story aloud, you can ask great questions about the character. Who were the main characters in this story? What problem were they trying to solve? How did they solve it? Have a conversation about these stories. And again, you'll be building students' language comprehension because they're being exposed to a variety of different concepts and different vocabularies. So we have a lot of ways that we can build language comprehension, but the key takeaway I hope you have is that we need to continue developing it because it's a critical second half of this puzzle that we have to unlock for kids.
Love it. And so we have a great question that I didn't think about, but these strategies that you shared with us tonight, do they differ when we're working with students that may have dyslexia or a student with disabilities? Like, how can we, kind of modify or accommodate in order to ensure that all of our students are able to learn reading with, by putting the science of reading into action?
That's a very important question, because of course we know that it's critical, it's imperative that we are able to meet the specific needs and strengths of every single student, and those needs are going to depend on a huge variety of factors. Dyslexia is a great example of something specific that we may have to provide specific supports for. So one of the biggest things in terms of dyslexia that research has shown is that students need to have extra support around their phoneme awareness. They need to practice hearing the sounds in words, moving those sounds around in a variety of different ways, and then connecting those sounds to the written letters that are used to spell them. So, for example, taking the word pay and changing it to day and having to actually swap out the P for a D. So when we can provide extra practice, extra support with phoneme awareness, we're going to be much more successful supporting our students, like dyslexic students who need that extra time and practice.
Awesome. So, with all good things, there are always challenges. So, when teachers are trying to implement the science of reading and put it into action in their classroom, or if you're doing this at home, what are some common challenges that arise? And most importantly, how can they be overcome?
Ooh, great question. So, two things come to mind. I think number one, there is this sentiment out there, I'll say, or this feeling out there that the science of reading is just another pendulum swing.
Hmm.
Teachers who have been around the block for any length of time have had to adjust their teaching styles several times based on political debates about what was best teaching practice, or even just a school district changing their curriculum because they found this other program that they thought was better. They implemented it for 2 years and then switched to something new. So there is fatigue and exhaustion, especially after coming out of remote teaching. And so it can be really tempting to think, oh, I just have to wait this out for a
Yeah.
couple more years and we'll move on to something new. And it's number one, it's important to know that this is not a pendulum swing. This is really based on finally digging into the research and looking at what is best practice. It's not up for debate, and it's definitely not going away. It would be like saying that chemistry or biology is just a passing fad. So this is here to stay, number one. And it's important that we lean into this research because it is new. It can feel scary, but our kids are counting on us. Every year we have it's called the Nation's Report Card, and they assess fourth graders to see where they're at. And we have 67% of our fourth graders in 2022 are reading below grade level. So I know it's 2023, but this is data from last year. So
Right.
67% of our fourth graders are reading below grade level. That is not okay. Every child deserves the opportunity to read. And the only way that we can make that happen is by leaning into the research and finding out what works for brains and what helps kids learn to read quickly and easily.
Yes, and when you think about working with, we have, I love that data you just shared. So 67% of students in fourth grade are reading below grade level. So a teacher that's walking into their classroom tomorrow, they are like, I am about to, go hard, really put the science of reading into action. I want to make sure that every single student in my class walks out of here knowing how to read. What is an action that they can implement starting tomorrow?
Number one, I would begin practicing phonological awareness right away. So practice playing with words and moving the sounds of words around, because again, we want to start from students' spoken language superpower. We want them to feel confident diving into the reading process. And a great way to do that is to point out to them that they are able to hear very small units of words called phonemes, these individual sounds like k, n. And so when we can start to use that superpower and then make the connection, the bridge to these written letters, students will be more successful, they'll feel more confident, and it'll be easier for them to learn how to read.
All righty. And for someone that wants to learn more about you, someone that, wants to get their hands on this book that we've been talking about tonight, tell us, where can they find you?
Well, you can find this everywhere books are sold. I tend to be an Amazon buyer, so you can definitely find it on Amazon. You can also find it at Barnes and Noble. And are we able to share the link?
Yeah. So we have the link up, the teachergoals.com/reading. You will be able to get it from there. Are there any other links that you wanted to share?
Well, if you are excited to start stepping into the science of reading and you'd like to check out my Instagram page, that's a great place to connect. I have tons of ideas that you can gather there. And you can find me at Plato 2. It's the number 2, Plato, Plato. And please send me a quick DM, say hello. I always love to get to chat with people. And if you have a specific question, let me know there too, and I will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yes, and we also put your website up as well. So shout out to Elena, who's always behind the scenes doing this for us. So you can find a lot of more resources, great tools at platotoplato.com, which we have on here. So thank you so much. This has been so informative. We learned so much tonight. And I'm just excited. I just cannot wait to see like how this book is going to transform reading, and hopefully like get those stats up. Next time we bring you on, I want to hear that number has decreased because people are putting the science of reading into action.
I love that goal. We'll cross our fingers, cross our toes, cross all the things.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And we did get the Instagram up as well. So if you want some more science of reading tips, then definitely check out the website, follow her on Instagram, and grab the book, The Science of Reading in Action.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And so I'm going to go through. I promised you all that we would be answering questions tonight. And so we have a few people saying thank you so much. Adam has, Gloria has said thank you. And so if you have any questions, now is the time to go ahead and ask those questions. And I am going to go through the chat to make sure that I haven't missed anything. I told you all at the beginning, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I feel like I'm just moving slow tonight. Bear with me, guys. And so, all right. So one, Antoinette made a comment. She said she does some of these strategies with her toddlers. Her 2-year-olds do very well with sounding out letters, which is awesome. Congrats on that. And so, do you have any advice or strategies specifically for parents or teachers that are working with younger children?
Yes. So we talked a lot about building phonological awareness, phonemic awareness by playing with those sounds. And the most important thing is just to continue to check in with your specific group of kiddos and make sure that you're staying developmentally appropriate. We're going to have some 2-year-olds who are ready to connect those sounds to written letters. And we're going to have other 2-year-olds who are picking daisies in the field playground, on the playground, right? So just continue to check in with your kids, make sure that you're meeting their unique needs and strengths, and you will be successful.
Great advice. And so next we have a question from Nancy. And I know we talked about like strategies that can be used with students with disabilities, including dyslexia. But how about special ed students with speech therapy needs? Are there any different strategies or advice that you would give someone that's teaching students with speech therapy needs?
Yes, when we are working with students of who need some additional support, it can be helpful to layer support. So in this specific case, if you have a child who is needing to practice a specific sound and is really struggling to feel and identify the look and feel of a sound, you can and should explicitly teach it to them, right? So give them the answer so they can then copy you. You are their model, and so they'll be able to copy you. And then once they have that speech sound down, then you can connect it to that written letter.
All right. Awesome. Yes, and thank you, Gloria, for letting me know that I am not alone, that you were making those sounds with her too, and touching your throat like I was not the only one. So thank you so much for letting me know that. And Gloria says, thank you for who asked that question, and thank you for all of the helpful information. And I want to say thank you as well. This has been like a great interview. I have learned so much, and I'm super excited to say that it is now giveaway time. We promised you all that we would be giving away a copy of The Science of Reading in Action, which is the #1 new release on Amazon. Congratulations so much for that. And so, do you have anyone that you have, that has been engaged tonight that you're like, you know what, I think that's our winner?
Well, I think everybody who's here tonight is a winner.
Yes.
I will spin. How about if I spin? I'm going to look away and I'm going to click on a comment and we'll see who I click. Is that good? We'll make it random. Okay. Gloria. It's her comment. Thank you for all the helpful information. That's where I landed.
Well, Gloria, congratulations. And so we will make sure to follow up. If you could, this is the one you said, Gloria Godwin. Thank you for all of the helpful information. That is who she landed on, and you are our winner tonight. And so if you could DM us at TeacherGoals, we will make sure that we get a copy of that book to you. And for everyone that is interested in grabbing a copy yourself, you can get The Science of Reading in Action by going to teachergoals.com/reading. It's also available in all the places. So Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you buy books, you will find it. And so thank you so much. And we just got a message. So send Gloria, I'm sorry, I gave you wrong information. Send an email to contact@teachergoals.com. And so, yes, please send that email with your information and we will get the book to you. All right, guys, thank you so much. For those of you that are on spring break, enjoy your the rest of your vacation or staycation, whatever it is that you are doing. Enjoy yourselves. For those of you that are celebrating Easter this weekend or spending time with family, definitely enjoy yourself for that. And I want to make sure that I let you all know that next week we have a little bit of a change in schedule. We are going to be talking about AI in the classroom, and I'm looking up the change. Give me 1 second. We are going to be doing a lunch and learn with Dan Fitzpatrick, who is the author of, or one of the co-authors of the AI classroom. And so we're going to be doing a lunch and learn next Wednesday, and it's going to take place right here from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we will make sure that we share that information out. And so we're going to be doing things a little bit different next week, but we will still be here. And so if you're interested in learning more about AI in the classroom, you definitely are going to want to be here for that lunch and learn. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for hanging with me. Thank you for all that you do. We appreciate you. You are valued, and we want you to have a good week. Have a good week, everyone. Good night.
Good night.